And in the studio, I have Ted Topouzis, who's with Topouzis Associates. And today we are going to talk about title insurance. And it's something that we almost everybody should be buying when they're closing.
No
It costs you money, but a lot of people never actually see the document or read it. And we're going to talk about why that's important. So,
Thanks, Mary. I appreciate it. Yeah, I thought this was a pretty good topic to discuss. We hear a lot about title insurance at closings, but we don't always know what that's all about. And and it's a good. I think it's a good point to make and kind of fill in some gaps. And I've got a little example that I wanted to discuss early in the segment here. You've just purchased your first home and moved in. It's one of the happiest days of your life. And you feel proud that you're a new homeowner. Then somebody knocks at your door. It's a contractor who did some work for the former owner that just sold you the house. And this former owner never paid that contractor, and they filed a lien. The problem is that it's a $5,000 lien that was misindexed by the recording clerk, and the title attorney that did the closing wouldn't have picked it up because it was misindexed. And here we are. We're faced with a situation. The problem is that you decided not to purchase title insurance at that closing. So now what's going on? I mean, unfortunately, the situation rests on your lap. There is no title insurance. There's nobody to turn to. So you've got to take the situation and attempt to try to resolve it by paying this contractor or negotiating a resolution.
So in that scenario, I'm thinking ahead. If the contractor placed a lien on the building, isn't it true that after 18 months, the mechanic's lien will fall off?
They would fall off unless they perfect their lien and file an action.
So they would have to file an action.
That's right.
And if the homeowner had purchased title insurance, that might have...
Well, that would definitely have saved them some aggravation. At least that initial scare, with the knock on the door. What would typically happen in this situation would be, and that's what title insurance is about. You purchase this policy. The policy protects you as the owner, and it's not the lender's policy. The lender, when you typically purchase a property with financing, the lender will always mandate that policy for themselves for their loan amount. But so that is not transferable to the owner. The owner's policy is a policy just for that owner, and that policy is paid at closing. It's not a renewal process where every month, like a homeowner's insurance policy, you'd have to renew that premium every single year. You pay this premium once in the process. And
it's for the entire length of time that you own and
you
reside
own
in
that property.
You own the property.
Yep.
Okay.
That's
so
right.
So the contractor puts a mechanic's lien on, and why this is important to our listeners is that you're unable to sell the property until that lien is satisfied. You don't necessarily have to pay the bill. It's going to be incredibly upsetting. It will be very, very upsetting, but you won't be able to sell the property until that lien is satisfied.
That's right, and potentially that in this state, for example, we don't really have Homestead in every municipality, so we're not necessarily protected in those municipalities where there isn't Homestead. So this contract could potentially force the issue, and so So the bottom line is it is important to have this policy. It is, and people have said it all along, there's actually a disclosure that you'd sign at closing where you will be advised that the owner's title insurance policy is an optional policy. However, I'll tell you, I've been doing this for quite some time, and I wouldn't let my friends, my family, purchase a property, or my clients, if I have to educate them, to make sure that they're making the right decision. But it's not a good idea to purchase a property without title insurance, even if your equity in the property is very little.
So let me ask you this: what's some crazy scenarios you've seen with title insurance?
With title insurance, well, I mean, it kind of runs the gamut. It's hard to say. I mean, there's lots of times there are things that predate your ownership of the property, and I know we've discussed something off the air a little bit, and these are the kind of things that could potentially come up, and they do frequently come up, and the policy will then engage the underwriter to either get involved in the curative process and resolve the issue, or they would issue a letter of indemnification, sometimes with an undertaking, depending on the state, to cure the issue. And so you will still be allowed to sell your property despite the fact that this issue came up.
Well, and I seem to learn a lot of lessons, through the School of Hard Knocks. And I had a property that we talked about off air that had a bad title. And it was clearly disclosed in the title policy, but I didn't take a look at it, and the law firm that closed it didn't tell me about it. And what it was a foreclosure, previous foreclosure, 3 owners prior, and it wasn't recorded properly. The wrong lot, plat and lot, were recorded incorrectly. So the title insurance waived any responsibility in the transfer of that property. And in the United States, the courts view your right to land ownership stronger than your right to parent children, and they will protect your right of ownership. So if somebody wanted to come back from the past and basically claim that their stake in that property, that's where it can threaten you. So when you go to sell a property without having a clear title, they'll look at it and say, hey, I have a risk that somebody might come from the past and try to claim a stake at it. And that's why title insurance is very important, that you read it before you close, that you're paying an attorney to be there for you. Have them take the extra few minutes to say, hey, there were a couple of exclusions you might want to be aware of. I mean, everything in that, it's a pretty standard document. It's the exclusions you want to know about. That's
right, Mary. Exactly. And I think that's important to know. And also, the whole process really, it can be summed up in a few minutes here. And that's these title, your property that's being insured, okay, is your home and the legal history of that land, okay? And that land can, tracks back in time to the Indians, the colonial days, and forward in time. So it's a really long period of time, and you really want to make sure that you have the right closing attorney that's by your side, that's done an exam, that's reviewed any potential issues with their underwriter to make sure that the issues have been addressed, have been determined to be non-issues, or if they are issues that need to be resolved, are resolved, and that the underwriters in the process all the way through till the issuance of that policy.
And so I would say, for listeners, because buying a piece of property is incredibly emotional, whether it's to live in or for business or whatever the purpose might be. It's your money. It's emotional. There's a lot at stake. There's a lot of time invested. Take the time to review this stuff, and this is why you have an opportunity to back out of sales, is if there's something that shows up on the title. Well, you might want to really think twice before getting a property with exclusions on it. You have to measure the risk, and you want to do that with professional advice.
And it should also be done with some disclosure. I mean, those kind of things you should be educated to that issue and not just be told the title is clear and there was something there in the back title. I mean, again, the lesson of this segment is get the title insurance, get the owner's policy, get the lender's policy. Will be a must on you anyway.
It's the best insurance you'll ever pay for. Peace of mind insurance. You're going to own a home for 30 years. You want to make sure you have clear title to it.
No renewal premiums. It's not like a homeowner's insurance policy. So you pay that one-time premium and it's paid for.